In this multi-part series, we'll follow a platoon leader from the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, from the beginning of Barbarossa up through the end of 1941. This includes his regiment's positioning at the tip of the spearhead during Operation Typhoon, the Wehrmacht's desperate final attempt to take Moscow. After the Soviets' brutal counterattack, of the 2,000 soldiers that had been active at the beginning of the Russian campaign, only 35 remained. Our platoon leader was one of those men. Using his sensational diary, photographs, personal letters, and other related primary source materials, we'll tell his story. Below the SS ruins on this leather-bound original is the title, My War Diary, Russia, 1941. In part 1 of this series, I'll introduce the author and the collection. I'll comment on how the Waffen-SS was positioned within the German military leading up to Barbarossa, and we'll go through the days in the diary prior to June 22nd and see how Das Reich staged for the operation. Finally, we'll take a look at the original campaign atlas to see where Das Reich was positioned in relation to other German formations. So stick around, it's worth it. In the summer of 1941, the formation was designated simply the SS Motorized Infantry Division Das Reich, and was made up of the regiments Deutschland, Der Führer and Germania. Our author, named Kurt, was a platoon leader in the Regiment Der Führer. In 1967, Kurt had this sensational collection, which includes even the original medals that he was awarded, bound together. The photograph is of him, on the right, leading his platoon, and the caption reads, "To my son, to document and as a warning, June of 1967. On the campaign maps that we'll use for orientation throughout the series, the division was marked as SSR. In November of 1942, it would be converted into a Panzer division, and then finally, in 1943, the 2nd SS Panzer Regiment was added, converting the unit into the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich. This is Kurt's Ostmedaille. It reads, Winterschlacht im Osten, 1941-42. Before I continue, I'd like to thank my Patreon supporters for making the buying of the originals I use in my videos possible. If you're not yet a member, please consider becoming one. Members get access to exclusive footage at military1945.com. Open a free account and take a look at some example footage. Above the Ostmedaille, we see an excerpt from Hitler's April 26, 1942 Reichstag speech, in which he compliments the soldiers of the Waffen-SS and security forces for their exemplary combat bravery and loyalty. It's likely that he's referring to their performance during the winter of 1941-42. The praise was probably important to the author because up until Barbarossa, the Waffen-SS had been known more for their sharp uniforms and precise marching skills than for combat effectiveness. After performing poorly during the campaign in Poland, there was even a question as to whether the units should be dissolved altogether. Only by having the Reichsführer SS Himmler as a benefactor was it allowed to continue. This speech marks that discussion being finally put to rest. Throughout the diary, the dates and names of locations are typed in red. The first 2 pages cover the lead up to June 22nd, when the invasion of Russia began. 11. Juni 1941. Die Abmarschbefehle. Our marching orders have arrived. That means that we'll be leaving beautiful Weizenkirchen, where, for the last 6 weeks, we really have been treated as family. Assigned to assist 2nd Lieutenant Neumann, who is in charge of organizing the unit's movement, I too am heading to Greiskirchen at 2200 hours before the rest of the company. My friends and I meet for a final farewell gathering at the Haus Semper, but the atmosphere is not celebratory. An ominous feeling has taken grip that neither music nor wine can release. Each of us contemplates the possibility that our time might be coming. None of us want the evening to end. As I stand in front of Uncle Franz, all my gear packed and ready to leave, he grasps my hand and tears begin to stream down his face. He grabs me in his arms, and then without a word, we turn and we begin the short walk to the market square. The sounds of our steps in the silence, almost in sync, gives me the feeling that it's my father walking beside me. Everyone is out and about this evening until late, savoring every remaining moment. Slowly our trucks begin arriving. We go to them, load our equipment, and get on. As we pull away, I look back and see Uncle Franz wearing his hunting hat and waving. Quickly, the figures on the market square disappear into the darkness. We've left our homes behind. We are on the road again, and in spite of our quiet, somber mood, we begin to lighten up. We're back on the move in our beloved truck, and finally heading towards action. The rest of the company hits the road at 2400 hours. Arriving in Greiskirchen, everything gets efficiently unloaded from the trucks and onto a train, with which we will continue our journey. The transfer is so quick that we're actually hours ahead of schedule. As of now, still, nobody knows where we are going, and our imaginations run wild. It's generally believed that Russia will open a corridor that we will be able to travel on through to Iraq. The excitement is almost unbearable. In our part of the train, I discover a section that is meant for normal paying travelers, which is far superior, and we secretly move in and make ourselves comfortable. We travel over Passau-Regensburg, Nuremberg, Plauen, Halle-Saale, Leipzig, heading towards Berlin. During the entire journey, we continue discussing all our possible destinations. Just past Cottbus, our direction suddenly changes, and we continue on over Sagan, Glogau, Lisa, and at 1800 hours we cross the former Polish border. At 100 hours we reach Zgierz, and the order is given to unload everything and prepare for immediate continuation of the journey by truck. At 400 hours our colony departs, passing over Litzmannstadt, Brezhny, Rava, Radom, Polovi, and at 1415 hours we arrive to Wola Osinska, which is where we will be quartering. In an open field that is surrounded by birch trees, we set up our tents and camp. The following days are used to make sure our weaponry and equipment is in order. The motor vehicles are all checked over down to the last screw, and our clothing down to the last button. The intense heat from the sun causes the entire battalion to spend these busy days wearing nothing but swimsuits. These are happy moments. Could they be our last? This is the original campaign atlas for Operation Barbarossa for 1941. We are looking at June 21st, the day before the invasion of Soviet Russia kicked off. The SS Motorized Infantry Division Das Reich was part of General Guderian's 2nd Panzer Group in Army Group Center. The Army Group was tasked with eventually taking Moscow. As you can see, Das Reich was not yet at the front line, and many of the soldiers were concerned that the war would be over before they had a chance to get involved. In Part 2, we'll see what happened to the division during those first eventful days and get a look at some of Kurt's first incredible photographs. If you haven't subscribed yet, please remember to do that. Thanks for watching.